been thinking about. What is it with me and wearing bright lip colours recently? Hey guys, it's Izzy and welcome back to my channel. I don't know why that involved a clap, but it did, so get over it. So today's video is, I hope it's an interesting one. I hope you find it interesting. If you don't, kind of wasting my time, but like, oh well. In today's video, I'm going to highlight all of the additional things I have to think about as a quadruple amputee. If you're new to my channel, or if you don't know, I'm a quadruple amputee. I got meningitis when I was 7. If you'd like to know the whole story, I have a video on it and it's linked in the description of every single one of my videos, so go watch it. So the first thing is probably the most obvious one, and it's accessibility. So whenever I go anywhere, I have to think about the accessibility. I have to make sure there isn't hundreds and hundreds of steps, and yeah, basically make sure that it's going to be suitable for me. So basically just have to make sure that it's going to be suitable. There's not going to be loads and loads of walking, and I'm not going to have to walk up flights of stairs. So making sure places have lifts, or basically anything that makes it more accessible is things I do quite a lot of the time, especially when I'm going to new places. So I mean, that can kind of be a bit irritating because the amount of places that don't have a lift in or anything, and even in shops and stuff, is actually insanely annoying. So that is one thing I have to think about. Probably the most obvious one, like I say. So the next one is I have to put my prosthetics on before I do anything. So if you don't know, I wear prosthetic legs, I wear blades, yeah. And although I can walk without them on, whenever I'm doing most things, I will put them on, which means I have to be prepared to put them on. So for instance, putting a pair of socks out ready to put them on the next day. It's just things like that that I have to think about, which sometimes I totally forget, and it can be kind of annoying because... The next one is also about prosthetics. So I have to think about what prosthetics are appropriate for whatever I'm doing. So for example, if I'm gonna go to a water park, I need my waterproof prosthetics. Now, I don't think this is a massive issue for me because I have my blades that I wear every day, and then I have my waterproof legs that I wear if I'm going swimming or a water park or anything like that. So I hardly ever really have to change between my legs, but I am looking into getting some other legs that are gonna have knee joints in, but it's still so early process. But obviously when I get there, I'll have to think oh, am I going to do something that's a bit more sporty, and then take my blades, or otherwise take my knee legs. So that is something to think about. I guess it's choosing what pair of shoes is appropriate. I have to choose what pair of legs is appropriate, which is quite funny to say. I have to pick my legs. So I kind of mentioned this earlier, but I have to think about how much I'm actually able to do. So I'm the kind of person who loves to just keep going and going and going and not stop, and my legs will be hurting, they'll be bleeding, and I'll just keep going because I don't want to be okay, I've had enough. But sometimes I have to, and sometimes I have to look and research things before to check that I'm not going somewhere that is gonna mean that I'm standing up for over an hour, or that I'm gonna have to walk a long distance, or on uneven floor or something. So I have to check that to make sure that I ain't gonna be tired and that it's gonna be appropriate for what I'm actually able to do comfortably. So this also may mean I do have a wheelchair. I really hardly ever use it, but this might then mean that my wheelchair becomes an option, but then I have to obviously then check, is it somewhere you can get a wheelchair around easily, or is it cobbles, because cobbled floor is a nightmare. So then I have to think about that. So the next one is really frustrating, but I have to be super careful in busy situations, so in crowds, in public, because of the way I walk outwards, and obviously if I accidentally catch someone as I'm walking outwards, one, it would probably really hurt them and I'd feel really bad, and two, I'd probably trip over and that'd kind of be a little embarrassing. So I have to be super careful in crowded situations. Sometimes when I'm in crowds I will just use my wheelchair, just because you can kind of get through easier when that. So whenever I'm walking, for instance, like if I'm with my mum, she knows to give me enough space and will kind of protect me. She obviously knows how much space I need to walk and how much I need so I don't hit anyone. That makes me sound so violent. But so my legs don't catch anyone and I don't trip up. So if I'm with her, she'll like guard me, sort of, you know, just stand the side that's the public's on. But I have to be a bit wary of that. So I was in London earlier this week, or last weekend. Go follow my Instagram and see all the pictures. The other thing I have to do is I have to like think about the fact that I walk slower. So for instance, you know, if you Google Maps and they're like, it would say like, oh, this is going to be a 12-minute walk. For me, that'd probably be a 20-minute walk. I don't walk too much slower, but I am still slower and I do get tired. So I have to kind of know that I'm going to take longer. So if I'm walking somewhere, I have to pay that in mind, that it's not just going to be like, you know, somewhere that might be 2 minutes down the road. It's double almost for me to do, which I don't find that one too bad because you've normally got the time and I don't really walk anywhere. Oh, so the next one is I have to think about where I leave things. So obviously when I've got my prosthetic legs on, if you don't know, I can take them on and off, so I don't sleep with them on, for example, but I wear them pretty much every other time. Yeah, so for example, if I leave something on quite a high cupboard when I've got my legs on and then I want it, I have to remember that I'm going to be like a lot shorter, so I have to make sure that I've kind of moved it if I'm going to want it after. So for instance, if I need to get something out of one of my drawers before I go to bed, I'll get it out before I get my legs off if it's one of the high drawers that I can't reach. So yeah, it's just kind of, you have to, I think most of these you have to think about everything a little bit more, which is obviously the title of the video, because you have to like think ahead. You can't really, well you can, but it's kind of difficult just to do things. You have to have put a bit more thought into it. So another one that I have to think about is that with my legs I can't bend down and don't have a very long reach on me because of my arms. So this means in places like the kitchen I find this a real big issue, because everything that I can reach and access easily has to be like around this portion of my body, so it's not too low, not too high, and I can sort it all out. Obviously when it comes to like storage and stuff, that is an absolute pain because you can't put every single thing at like this height. So when I'm older I'm literally gonna have to do that in my own house, but for now we try and make sure that, because obviously I share the kitchen with my whole family, so we have to make sure that most of the things that I would want are on a level I can reach them, so that I can be independent in that sense. But that's something that when I'm older I'll be able to have more control over, because it'll be my kitchen so I can organise it how I want it. But I definitely will put things at this level because it just makes it so much easier for me to reach because I can't bend down. Okay, so the next one I have done videos on before, but I have to think of different ways to do things. Now I'm going to do a video soon, so subscribe and keep an eye out, that basically explains 50, I think it's going to be 50, it might be less than 50, it depends how many I think of, but things I can do. So I'm going to show you everything, because every single thing you've ever asked, how can you do that, will be featured in that video. So, but obviously everything I can do, pretty much everything I can do, I've had to learn to do a different way of it. So I obviously have to think of the different ways around things and the ways possible. So for instance, with putting my legs on, I think really try and work out in my head what would be a good way of doing it, and then I can do it. And then the final one that I've got is I have to concentrate on the floor surface. So with having prosthetic legs, I struggle to feel the floor. Now I can to a certain extent, but it's still kind of difficult. So I find, especially if I'm on like a wet or kind of slippy floor, I have to pay so much attention. I'll be walking like this, trying to get every bit of balance I can, because I find it really difficult because I don't know if I'm gonna go or if I'm gonna stay stood up. It's all just a bit like, ooh, what's gonna happen? That was such a great sound. So if you ever see me walking on like a slippy floor, the concentration in my face will probably be massive. But I think just walking in general, because it's more difficult, I do have to pay attention to doing it to make sure that I don't like catch the floor with my blades or anything, which I do all the time. I know my friends will know, it's just a running joke now because I trip over nothing. I'll be walking and I'll be like, oh, there was the floor, but I tripped over it. But most of the time it's only like a little like whoop, not a like face plant, which is great. But that is something I do, so I have to make sure a lot of the time that I am really paying attention to what I'm doing, how my legs are moving and where they are in comparison to the floor. So that is the end of this video. If you do enjoy these kind of videos where it's like 10 or however many things I can still do as an amputee, or 10 blah 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 amputee, then let me know any other ideas that you do have. But other than that, I really hope you did enjoy this video. Make sure to like, comment and subscribe, and I will see you guys next week with a brand new video. Bye guys.